Welcome to Pillow Talking. I'm Stephanie Lyons-Keeley, and today we are here at Connecticut Repertory Theater at UConn, speaking with the one and only Terrence Mann. Hi, Terry.
Hi, Steph. How are you?
Nice to see you. First, we have to start out by congratulating you for Connecticut Critics Circle Best Director for 1776, which I believe opened last summer's.
Last summer, you opened last summer season. Yeah.
And
Thank you.
We missed you. We missed seeing you there. It was a great party, and we thoroughly enjoyed 1776. So that was really, really great. We were very happy to see that.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. So we wanted to kind of open things with a quote of yours, and I want to get it right. So,
Okay.
Movies will make you famous, television will make you rich, but theater will make you good. So we know with your resume, you have to be all three.
Well, I wish I was rich and I wish I was famous, but no. It's like there's people at the top and there's people at the bottom, and they got pretty clear choices. It's all of us in the middle of the rungs of the ladder in this business, that just go from job to job and hope you're getting your next one. So.
Well, tell me what all three have given you besides the possibility of fame, fortune, and honing your talents and skills.
Being in theater, because I'm a theater rat first. I love being in the theater. I love walking into an empty theater. It's like church for me, and I love the process of rehearsal and discovery and how your imagination gets set on fire by great writing and great music, and that always has inspired me and floated my boat more than anything else. However, as I've gotten older, I've had a chance to do a lot more film and television, and it's a different skill set. So it's great to be able to go to school on something or learn a new technique, as it were, as you're growing older, and things you can't really run around doing 8 shows a week and dancing and kicking your legs up like you used to. No, except for my wife, she can. But the great thing about being in film and television, if you're lucky enough to do it, is that you get to meet a whole and approach acting and storytelling from a completely different aspect. It's a director's medium, where I've always felt that theater is an actor's medium. Once you're on the stage, you're in charge.
That's right. Well, we know some of your most iconic in the roles that you have originated, things like Les Mis and Beauty and the Beast and Cats, of course, where you met your wife. Do you see those productions today? Do you see how maybe they've changed or have remained the same? What is it like seeing somebody else in the roles that you...
It's funny. I mean, I've been asked that question before, but only in the last couple of years, because those shows, as you've said, have been around with Cats since 1982, Les Mis since 1989, and The Beauty and the Beast in 96. So they're iconic. And it's funny because when you're doing it, like when I did Cats, we knew it was going to be a big hit and it was going to be kind of an innovative piece of musical theater because there was $5 million advance sales in the bank. So we knew we were going to be, we had a job for a couple of years. You knew that. But I don't think we knew the scale on which it was going to be remembered for its iconicness, if that's a word.
Maybe.
And Les Mis, such a critically acclaimed sort of, yet another pillar in the pantheon of musical theater. To be a part of that was, here again, the immediate feeling of being in something that was very fulfilling and powerful and great storytelling. And so looking back on those, I am just always fascinated, and it's like it's the same, but it's completely different, if that makes any sense at all. Because when I see other people in those roles, I go, oh, I remember doing that. Oh yeah, I kind of did that. Oh wow, that's good. I wish I'd have done that. So you're still kind of picking through all of these great actors who are doing these roles. And I am, anyway, still trying to go, wow, next time I do that role, if I ever do it, I won't be doing Cats anymore because spandex, not going to happen. It's just not in the world.
I feel you right there.
So, I don't know. Anyway.
When you see all the new productions that are out there, what would your 20 or 30-year-old self, is there a role that you would say if you could go back in time, but still be in the present with what's on stage?
Oh man, what, I can't even think for a second. What's out there right now that? Well, even though I wouldn't have to go back so far, I would love to the band's visits, which is an amazing piece of theater.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's extraordinary. I would that one, but that's an older guy, so you kind of go, oh, that's something I can do later,
Gets
probably.
me.
Yeah, exactly. Spring Awakening,
Okay.
Rent.
Yes.
About going back to my 20s or 30s. Those are two shows I would love to have been a part of.
Yeah, that voice out there for everyone. Yeah, those would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So if we're talking so much about theater, if you had to only pick one medium, TV, film, or theater, would your heart stay in theater? Would you, if you only could pick one?
If I only could pick one, yeah, I think it would have to be theater. I think it would because it's what I know. It's in my DNA. It's what I've grown up doing. It's where I recognize myself mostly. But I've had a chance over the past few years. I did this thing for Netflix called Sense8,
Yes.
which was this kind of psycho paranormal thriller done by the Wachowskis. And that experience was extraordinary, in as much as we traveled all over the world, 15 different countries, shooting this very strange but powerful story about these young people coming together and their brains becoming one, and telepathy and stuff like that. That experience is pretty great, but you're still a tool for the director,
Right.
and you always will be. But at least that's been my experience to date. Maybe I'm always looking for the next one. But
Yeah.
I think theater, to answer your question,
Okay.
yes, theater.
Well, and you're also in academia as a teacher. So I know, aside from being an actor and singer in musical theater, you teach and you direct. So how do those complement each other, and what do you bring to each of those? What hat?
Being an actor first, when I first started directing, which was the first show I ever directed was back in 1991, and it was 1776.
Wow.
First show I ever directed, and it was kind of by default. The producer of the theater I was working said, "I need you to come in and do this show." I said, "I'm not a director." She said, "You are now." I went, "Oh, okay." So I just hired a bunch of my friends who were great actors and kind of stood back and
Let them play.
let them play and hopefully be the voice of, "Oh, this works, let's do that." And then as the years go on, and I was never really into I never really wanted to be in musical theater. I wanted to be either a rock star or a great Shakespearean actor. I wanted to be like the third spear chucker from the left down at the public theater and hopefully work my way up to that. But so once I started directing, I at the North Carolina Theater, which is where that was, I just brought in all the old great Oklahoma, Showboat, Camelot, Sound of Music, all those great iconic shows that created the whole musical theater world. And once I started delving into them and working on them, it was like going to school again and realizing how difficult it is to tell a great story musically, and then how to craft putting it together theatrically and transitions and stuff. So that directing thing is kind of like teaching. Once I was the only difference is once you're asked to go into academia, every moment with a student, whether you're in the rehearsal hall or whether you're having a cup of coffee with them, every moment is a teaching moment. And for me, it's also a learning moment. And that's particular to CRT, because our Summer Nutmeg series, it has to be, we get 4 or 5 equity contracts of professionals who come up here to be in our shows. The rest are all students from colleges all over the country. So what has been such a re-inspirational moment for me is being able to be an actor, like working in Sweeney Todd right now, working with them and being the teacher who becomes the student. And that's really, really cool.
And now I imagine, and others have said this, you learn from them too, because they're bringing this fresh insight, and there's all these individuals. So, what is that like for you? Do you mentioned before when you have seen other productions of the roles that you've played, you say, "Oh, I could have done that." So what kinds of things, are there any interesting nuggets that you pick up from the students, like especially here at CRT?
I pick up the nuggets I pick up from the students that I've worked with, particularly here at CRT, is that they have 1,000 choices, and you're in their heads, and they will, if you want, do them all in one line.
Oh no.
So
pare it down a little
that,
bit.
Exactly. Better to have too many choices than not enough.
That's true.
That's what I think I've learned from working with them as an actor and as a director, is that they have so much energy and their imaginations are so fertile that all you've got to do is give them, why don't you try this, and what about this? And a lot of times, when you're working with young actors, and they start denying the choices that is instinctive in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, as a director, I think you're the most valuable, is that you just want to encourage them to embrace that, what do you call it, that instinct or that movement that you want to do. Go there, do that. There are no wrong choices as far as I'm concerned. You just got to be specific, have no fear, and know that there are no wrong choices when you are rehearsing something and learning something, because one thing leads to the other always.
And that's great advice. What other kinds of things, when you're working with students, what do they ask you, or what advice would you give to someone who, say, wanted to explore theater as a major?
The biggest question, the magic bullet question, as it were, is how do I get to where you got? Mm-hmm. How do I do that? How do I have that career that you have, or how do I get consistently be in the mix? And I never used to know the answer to that until we were doing we do a triple arts. It's called Triple Arts Intensive for young performers. It's a program of musical theater that we do for 3 weeks down in North Carolina, at Western Carolina, where I teach. We used to do it in New York, and we were doing it in New York, and we took all of the kids one night to go see Hamilton, and they got them to do a talk back. We got them to do a talk back for us after the show, and we're sitting there, and one of our kids, or one of our young performers, asked that question of Chris Jackson, who played George Washington in Hamilton. He said, "How do I get where you are? How do I get up there?" And he said the thing that I went, yes. He said, "You just got to work harder than anybody else." That's it. You just got to work harder than anybody. You got to be the hardest working person in the room, because you'll get noticed, and that director will always want to be in the room with you, because that's what you want. Who does the director want to be in the room with? That's what I look for. Oh, I want that kid. I want that person. Give me those 5 people, and I can create a repertoire theater, company out of that. Because you just want people that are passionate about it. Mm-hmm. Different levels of skills, but people that are really passionate about it. The other thing that was a nugget in that same after show talkback was Lin-Manuel. Somebody said, one of the performers was asking, said, "Do you still audition? What is that? I mean, auditioning, it's so hard, and I always have trouble because I get so nervous." And Lin said, he said, "Let's remember something here. As actors, your job is to audition. That's your job. That's your 9 to 5 job. That's what you get up and go to do every day. So your skill set has to be all aligned with that. Once you get the job in a show, that's gravy. That's like getting the bonus at the end of the year."
It's the fun stuff.
Yeah, that's the fun stuff, correct.
Mm-hmm.
So those two things, auditioning is your job, and work harder than anybody else in the room.
That really applies to everything, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what keeps bringing you back to CRT? Because we love CRT. So.
I think you just said it. I love CRT. I loved it when I was asked to come up here in 2011 to do My Fair Lady. My friend who I'd worked in the Lost Colony with was the general manager here, and he said, "You want to come up and do My Fair Lady in the summer?" I went, and the timing was right, and I went, "Sure." And once I landed here and met the people, saw the campus, this reminded me of why I do what I do as an actor. It's just for the love of it. And I don't think you can ever stop reminding yourself about that, because once you get to New York, or it shouldn't be called show business. It should be called the business of show, because it's all about the business when you're in the meccas of either LA or New York, whatever you're trying to do. So whenever you can, go find a place like CRT, because it's going to feed your spirit and make your creativity come back, and it's like a fountain of youth. It rejuvenates you on so many levels.
I think it's the same for us as reviewers and audience members, because you really do feel the passion here with everyone from the minute you pick up your ticket. Everybody is wonderful, and then you 1776, for example, I mean, you just look and you think you're on a Broadway,
you
in
do
a Broadway theater, because it's fantastic.
And it's extraordinary. And I heard that Jamie Lavadier, who won for Best Actor, when he was doing his acceptance speech, talked about. He said, "I came to CRT, and I'm going to do 1776, which is old, craggy, line-filled, balding, fat men, and what I ran into was a bunch of students."
Young people.
However, did they ever show up and do right by that thing? And that's the thing that I was most proud of, that 1776 and Newsies.
Newsies was amazing too.
Right.
It was the first time I'd ever seen it, and I thought, how could anything be better? It was fantastic.
Right? I know. Christopher D'Amboise. But that you've got a handful of professionals, but all the rest are students who are stepping up to the plate and taking on these iconic roles of our founding forefathers, and turning it out with maturity and aplomb and the ability to engage age and tell that story physically as well as
and everybody just pushes each other to be better, and honestly, there's times that you can't tell the professionals from the students.
Absolutely.
I have found that with everything we've ever seen here.
That is exactly right, and that's why I love it here. It's that confluence of things that create something else.
Right. So your summer series now, we've seen Disaster, which was absolutely so much fun.
Wacky zany.
We're going to get to see you in Sweeney Todd,
right.
And then we have Jesus Christ Superstar. So how did you pick such an eclectic grouping? How do you approach the series?
Disaster came about because literally we were trying to pick the season after last season. Matt and I were talking, and we said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "I don't know." We had tried to do, working backwards, we tried to do Jesus Christ Superstar last year, but couldn't get the rights. So that's something that Christopher D'Amboise and I had always wanted to do. We've been wanting to do it for like 10 years. So that came available, we found out last September. So that we knew was going to be the final show. Didn't know about Sweeney yet, but I was on a riverboat going down the Rhine River in Europe from Basel, Switzerland to Amsterdam, doing a playbill cruise, and Seth Rudetsky was on the cruise. He was a musical director, and I was walking by his room one day, and I said, "Seth, what's going on?" And it just went bing. I went, "What's going on with Disaster?" He said, "Oh, nothing." I said, "Do you want to come do it up at this theater that I just got made artistic director of?" And he goes, "What? Tell me all about it." So I told him all about it. He said, "Sure." So here we are. And then I think in the midst of all of that, we were talking about Little Shop of Horrors, because we wanted to do a concert version of something, because that's our template. We do a full-blown show, then that middle show is always going to be a concert version of something that would lend itself to it. And I think Matt and I were talking, and the idea of doing Sweeney popped up, and then me and my euphoria about, "Oh, that's great, and I'll do Sweeney." I said I'd do Sweeney.
Yay.
Yeah.
Can you explain, because I think this in concert may be vague to some people. What do you mean by in concert? How do you define in concert?
Well, if you saw Les Mis, that was the orchestra kind of on stage and people coming down to microphones and singing into them, yet we still had staging and movement to physically tell the storytelling. That's pretty much what we do. With Sweeney Todd, we do basically the same thing. The orchestra is on stage. We've created a set that sits in the middle of the orchestra with levels and stuff, and then but because the storytelling requires levels with the shop above the room above the shop, we've got more running around, more movement and blocking, as it were.
Okay.
But it's still basically a concertized version
Okay.
of the show, not a full-blown with full sets and stuff.
And now you were drawn to play Sweeney, so what can we expect from you? What can we expect from this performance? It's going to be
A bloody performance. It will be bloody. I don't know. I mean, I did it back in the 90s, and then I've directed it, and it's always something you can revisit, because it's one of those things that you can never ever master. You just hope to survive it.
okay.
And
Literally and figuratively.
yes, literally and figuratively. And I've always been a big one for just whatever fear I have, I need to go like
You still get scared?
totally
Really?
terrified. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Have you done Sweeney before, did you say?
I did, yeah.
Yeah,
I did
okay.
back in the 90s. Yeah.
Now, also, I was thinking this earlier when you were talking. Have you ever mounted productions of any of the, like Les Mis or
Yep.
Beauty and the Beast? What was that like?
I've
as a director?
directed Sweeney at Western Carolina where I teach.
Mhm.
We did it 3 years ago. I think we did Sweeney 4 years ago, and we did Les Mis, I think 3 years ago.
Okay.
So I have directed them.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is fantastic. We're super excited to come out here, and we cannot wait to see Sweeney Todd. And will you be coming back next season, or am I not allowed to ask that?
No, you can ask it. Yeah, I'm coming back. I hope I'm coming back. If they ask me to come back, I would hope so. We're still figuring out what that season's going to be.
Yeah, well, we're a year out, so that's okay.
Yeah, we haven't even finished this one. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to it every single summer, so we are so pleased to be out here. And I guess that's it for us today.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you
Steph.
so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And we'll be back with more from Stephanie and her boys.
Oh, yeah.